The suburbs are a special kind of war zone. You don't have tanks. You have passive-aggressive lawn gnomes. You don't have gunfire. You have 7 a.m. leaf blowers on a Saturday. And you don't have dictators. You have Brenda. I was in my home office, which is a fancy term for the spare bedroom overlooking the street, nursing my second cup of coffee and debugging a piece of code that was behaving like a toddler on a sugar high. Outside, Willow Creek Estates was in full, aggressive bloom. Every lawn was mowed to the same unsettling 3-inch height. Every hedge was a perfect, soulless rectangle. This wasn't a neighborhood. It was a high-stakes competition in conformity, and Brenda was the self-appointed judge, jury, and executioner. Brenda, our newly elected by a suspiciously narrow margin HOA president, drove a white Lexus SUV that was so clean it looked like it had been CGI'd into existence. She was never seen without a visor, even indoors, and she patrolled the cul-de-sac with a clipboard and an aura of profound disappointment. Our neighborhood, Willow Creek Estates, was a place where individuality went to die, or at least to be painted taupe. I'd had minor run-ins with her before. There was the email she sent to the entire block about my recycling bin being visibly exuberant. It was the standard issue bright blue, but I had put it out a full 20 minutes before the 6 a.m. guideline. There was the time I caught her squinting at my lawn, holding a ruler. A ruler. I sipped my coffee. My code was still broken. And then, I saw it. The white Lexus. It crawled to a stop directly in front of my house. "Oh, here we go," I muttered to my monitor. Brenda emerged, clipboard in hand. She stood on the sidewalk, a solid 20 feet from my house, and just stared. She squinted. She tilted her head. She took a half step to the left, as if analyzing the scene from a different artistic angle. Then, she unclipped a pen and made a notation. A slow, deliberate checkmark of doom. Her gaze was fixed on my mailbox. "What is it this time?" I whispered. "Is the mailbox not mailboxy enough? Did a bird poop on it in a non-approved font? Is the wood grain pattern on the post too rustic?" She took a picture. With her phone. An actual evidence-gathering picture of my mailbox. I sighed, closed my laptop, and decided to meet my fate head-on. If I waited, it would just become a passive-aggressive email chain that would CC the entire neighborhood, including Mrs. Henderson, who was 90 and definitely didn't need the stress. I headed outside, grabbing the empty watering can from the porch as a prop. "Just watering the, concrete," I mumbled to myself. I was halfway down the driveway when she pivoted, her orthopedic sneakers silent on the pavement. "Mark, good morning." It wasn't a greeting, it was an accusation. "Brenda." I gave her my best, most non-threatening suburban dad smile. "Clipboard looks heavy today. Big day for community standards?" She ignored my attempt at humor. Brenda had no time for levity. "I've been fielding some concerns from neighbors." I immediately knew neighbors was plural for me. Neighbors was always singular. It was her. It was always her. "Concerns?" I asked, feigning innocence as I pretend watered a perfectly happy petunia. "Like the rogue squirrel on Elm Street? I heard he's a menace, tearing up the begonias. About your mailbox." I stopped watering. My mailbox. I turned and looked at it. It was a black, standard-issue mailbox on a pressure-treated 4x4 post. It was the most boring, inoffensive object on my entire property. It was, in fact, the exact model the builder had installed. "What about it? Is it planning a hostile takeover of your petunias?" She took a deep, preparatory breath. The flag. I was genuinely lost. I looked at the little red flag, which was currently in the down position. The flag, I repeated, my brain buffering. The one that, and correct me if I'm wrong, signals that I have outgoing mail? It's a feature. Came with the box. Mandated, I believe, by the United States Postal Service, a federal agency. It's the color, Mark. The color. It's aggressive, she said, and the word hung in the air between us, as if she'd just accused my mailbox of armed robbery. It's a very stark red, and when it's up, it's visually distracting. It draws the eye. I waited for the punchline. There was no punchline. It's unneighborly, she finished, the final nail in the coffin. I stared at her, trying to process the sheer, unadulterated absurdity of the statement. Brenda, it's mailbox flag red. It's the red. The only red they make. It creates visual pollution, she said, as if reading from a script. It clashes with the earth tones of the neighborhood palette. We have an approved list of beiges, gentle fawns, and quiet granites for all exterior appointments. That flag, it's a violation of Article 4, Section 2, Aesthetic Harmony. Aesthetic harmony. I'm going to have to ask you to either paint it a neutral color, we have the approved list on the HOA portal, or find an alternative signaling method. My brain finally caught up. An alternative signaling method. You want me to… what? Send up smoke signals? Get a carrier pigeon? A little bell? What do you suggest, Brenda? That's for you to resolve, Mark, she said, her voice dripping with condescending finality. I'm just the messenger. You have 48 hours to submit a modification plan to the board. Otherwise, the association will be forced to issue a fine. Good day. She pivoted again, a perfect drill sergeant turn, and marched back to her white Lexus. I was left standing in my driveway, watering can in hand, staring at the most aggressive mailbox flag in the history of suburban America. I went inside, poured a very large coffee, and looked at the modification plan form she had, helpfully, already emailed me, and it had a section for paint swatches. I suddenly felt a powerful, undeniable, and deeply primal urge to learn how to play the bagpipes. Badly. At 3 a.m. The digital assault began almost immediately. My inbox, which was usually just a sad mix of project updates and ads for meal prep boxes, lit up. 3 new messages from Willow Creek HOA Board, which was just Brenda's personal email address with a fancier signature. Email 1, 9:15 a.m. Subject, official warning, non-conformant mail receptacle indicator, red. 124 Willow Creek, Dr. Dear Mr. Mark, this email serves as a formal warning regarding a violation of the Willow Creek Estate's covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CCNRs, specifically Article 4, Section 2, Aesthetic Harmony. Violation, unapproved aggressive red flag on mail receptacle. Issue. Color is non-conformant with the neighborhood's approved earth tone palette. Creates visual pollution. Resolution. Submit a modification plan within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in a fine of $50,000, escalating by $2,500 per day. We appreciate your immediate attention to this matter to restore community harmony. Sincerely, Brenda President. Willow Creek HOA email. 2, 9:17 a.m. Subject, FWDOI, helpful suggestions for mailbox compliance. Dear Mark, further to my previous email, I wanted to provide some helpful, board-approved resources for your modification. Here are several vendors who sell flags in more neighborly colors. Link. The Gentle Fawn Neutral Flag. Link. The Quiet Granite Indicator. Link. Satin Nickel Metallic Neutral Flag. Please ensure your paint swatch, if you choose that route, is from the approved Bare Quiet Home collection. Yours in community. Brenda email. 3:9:20 a.m. Subject. Just checking in. Mark, I saw you received the notifications. Our system tracks reads, you know. Just wanted to ensure you're taking this seriously. Community harmony is a team effort. B. My eye was twitching. Team effort, I muttered. Right. Like when a wolf and a rabbit team up for lunch. She wants me to paint the flag beige. A beige flag. What does that even mean? Is that surrender? It feels like surrender. It's a literal white, beige flag. I picked up my phone and called my best friend, Alex. Alex is a mechanical engineer, and he lives across town in a wonderful HOA-free neighborhood where I'm pretty sure his neighbor is legally allowed to own chickens. Dude, I said when he picked up, you're not going to believe this. Let me guess, Alex's voice crackled. The visor struck again? Did you trim your hedges in a non-Euclidean shape? Worse, my mailbox flag. Your what? My mailbox flag. The little red one. It's visually distracting. There was a long pause, and then a bark of laughter. What? Is it distracting? Commuters? Is it causing fender benders? Is a stark red responsible for the declining property values in Willow Creek? Apparently, it's aggressive and unneighborly. She wants me to paint it beige. You can't, Alex said, suddenly serious. That's a federal crime, probably. Tampering with the mail, impeding a mail carrier. This is big, man. You should call the mail police. The mail police? The postal inspectors. Tell them a local tyrant is impeding the flow of snail mail with aesthetic fascism. This is a RICO case, man. As fun as it sounds to get Brenda arrested by the mail police, I think I need to fight this at her level. The level of supreme, baffling, soul-crushing pettiness. So, what are you thinking? Alex asked. Painted a different shade of red? Fire engine red? Satan's rage red? I heart communism red? No, I said, a slow, terrible idea forming. I'm thinking, I need to comply, but I'm going to comply so hard she'll wish she never learned to use Microsoft Word. I hung up and went to my garage. It was time for Phase 1. I rummaged through my cabinet of half-used spray paints. I didn't have beige, I didn't have gentle fawn, but I did have a can of high-gloss, metallic, chrome-silver spray paint left over from a failed attempt at refinishing a lamp. Is chrome a neutral color? I asked my dog, Buster, who had followed me out. It reflects all the colors. It's the most neutral color. It's the Switzerland of the spray paint world. This is fine. I detached the little red flag, took it to the backyard, and gave it 3 thick, gleaming coats. 10 minutes later, I reattached it. It was glorious. It gleamed in the afternoon sun like a medieval knight's codpiece. It was a disco ball. It was a beacon. I went inside and dutifully filled out the Modification Plan PDF. Nature of Modification. Repainting of Male Receptacle Indicator. Color, Reflective Neutrality. Swatch. I just typed NA, see attachment. I attached a picture of the gleaming chrome flag, hit send, and waited. It took less than 10 minutes. My doorbell rang, a furious 3-jab ding-dong-ding. I opened it. It was Brenda. She was vibrating with a rage so pure it was almost visible. "Mark," she seethed, not even bothering with a greeting. "What is that?" "That?" I said, pointing. "That's my compliance. It's reflective neutrality. It's not red. It's neutral. It reflects the, earth tones of the neighborhood." I gestured as the sun hit it, sending a blinding shard of light directly onto her white Lexus. "See? Now it's reflecting your lovely car. Harmony." Her eye was twitching. I was genuinely afraid she was going to have an aneurysm on my porch. "You are blinding the drivers, Mark. I just got a call from Mrs. Henderson. She thought an alien spacecraft had landed on your mailbox. This is worse. This is a hazard." "Worse? Brenda, I'm trying to be a team player here. You said no red. This is no red. It's satin nickel, like you suggested. Okay, maybe a very shiny satin nickel." "This is a mockery!" she shrieked, finally losing her clipboard-wielding composure. "A mockery! You have 24 hours to fix this, Mark. 24 hours or the fines begin. I am not joking." "Fine, fine," I said, holding up my hands. I'll think of something else. Something less shiny, something alternative." She stormed off, muttering something about spite and structural integrity. I watched her go, a slow smile spreading across my face. She wanted me to find an alternative signaling method. "Okay, Brenda. Challenge accepted. How do you feel about celebrations?" I couldn't sleep. It was 2 a.m. and I was in my garage, pacing. Buster, my golden retriever, watched me from his bed, his head tilted with a look of profound canine concern. "She said, alternative signaling method, Buster," I mumbled, gesturing at the garage door. The words just keep bouncing around my skull like a caffeinated squirrel. What signals? I was surrounded by the ghosts of projects past. Arduino boards, tangled wires, half-assembled 3D printer parts, and boxes of old computer guts. I'm a software engineer by day, but my real passion is tinkering, making things. Usually, useless things. Animatronic Halloween decorations, a robot that failed to sort Lego, a custom-built smart toaster that only burned one side of the bread. Was perfectly, uniquely unqualified for this moment. "What's alternative?" I mused, picking up a servo motor. "A little horn? Toot toot, the mail's here, Brenda. A flashing light? She'd just call it a public nuisance. A tiny animatronic Brenda that pops out of the top and shrieks, 'You've got mail!' Buster thumped his tail at that one. I went back to the mailbox itself, which I'd brought into the garage after stripping off the chrome paint. I looked at the flag mechanism. It's the movement that's the problem. The flag goes up. The mail is here. It's a binary switch, 0 to 1, down to up. My eyes scanned the shelves. What if the flag isn't the signal? What if the flag is the trigger? I stopped pacing. And the signal is something she can't possibly complain about. What's something no one can complain about? Joy, celebration, festivity, community, harmony. My eyes landed on a dusty, forgotten box on the top shelf. It was labeled New Year's 2020. I pulled it down, blew off the dust, and opened it. Inside, a tangle of streamers, a half-empty bag of noisemakers, and a dozen spring-loaded party poppers. I held one in my hand. "Oh my God," I whispered. Buster sat up. "Oh my God, a confetti cannon." No, not a cannon. That sounded aggressive. A confetti launcher, a celebration receptacle, rigged to the flag. The mailman puts the mail in, pushes the flag up, and fwoomp! A glorious, non-distracting, community-building cloud of joy. "It's not aggressive, Buster," I said, giddy. "It's festive. What's she going to do? Fine me for excessive happiness? Unneighborly celebration?" I grabbed my phone. ARC, 2:15 a.m. I have it. Project Party Popper is a go. My phone buzzed a minute later. Alex, 2:17 a.m. Are you drunk engineering again? Mark, 2:17 a.m. Sober as a judge, my friend. And twice as spiteful. I'm going to make that mailbox a one-gun salute to the U.S. Postal Service. Alex, 2:18 a.m. You are a beautiful broken man. Send me the schematics. I started sketching, but I had a problem. Building this thing would require noise, drilling, testing, and I'd be doing it right on the front lawn. Brenda, who clearly had the hearing of a bat and the vigilance of a sniper, would be on me in a second. I needed a distraction. I needed cover. I thought for a moment, and then I remembered my front fence, the one with the one wobbly post and the peeling paint. I'd been meaning to get it fixed for a year. I pulled up my contacts and found the number for Sal's Fencing and Decks. The next morning, I called him. "Sal's Fencing," a gruff voice answered. "Hey, Sal, it's Mark on Willow Creek. You did my deck last year. Listen, I've got a sudden, urgent need to get my front picket fence replaced. How soon can you start?" There was a long, tired sigh on the other end. "Willow Creek? With the lady, right? The one with the visor? Still driving that white thing?" "That's the one. She, has some concerns about my mailbox." "Let me guess," Sal grumbled. "Too tall? Too short? Not beige enough?" "The flag is aggressive," I said flatly. Sal was quiet for a second. Then he chuckled. "Aggressive, of course it is. That woman, last year she wrote me up because my truck was leaking commercial-grade fluids on the asphalt. It was AC condensation, Mark. Water." "Sounds about right," I said. "So you need the fence done," Sal said. "And I'm guessing you need it done loudly?" I grinned. "Sal, are you psychic? I need to replace that wobbly post, right? The one near the mailbox?" "That's the one." "Well," Sal said, his voice warming up, "we're gonna have to use the gas-powered auger, and probably the jackhammer, just to be safe. Gotta check the post footings. That could take, a good noisy day. Maybe two. We can be real thorough." "Sal, you're a poet. A poet with a jackhammer. We'll be there tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp, and we'll start right by the mailbox." The alliance was formed. Sal would provide the shock and awe. I would build the partying popper. The next morning, 8:01 a.m., Sal's crew, true to their word, arrived. Their truck was a glorious beat-up Ford F-250, and it was loud. Sal, a big guy in a flannel shirt who looked like he ate nails for breakfast, gave me a subtle nod. With him were two younger guys, Juan and Miguel, who immediately started unloading tools with what I can only describe as malicious enthusiasm. At 8:03 a.m., the gas-powered post-hole auger roared to life, strategically placed about 5 feet from my mailbox. My garage was now Area 51, and Sal's crew was my diversion. I could see Brenda's curtains twitching across the street. Every time her front door so much as hinted at opening, Sal would yell, "Juan, hit it again! I think I heard a rock!" And the auger would scream. It was beautiful. "Okay, Buster," I said, laying out my tools. "Operation Festive Annoyance is underway." I had the mailbox clamped to my workbench. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. I needed the flag's upward motion to trigger an electronic release. The problem: The flag moves maybe 70 degrees. It's a simple, dumb metal hinge. The mechanism. I settled on a magnetic sensor, a reed switch. It's a simple, elegant little component. 2 metal contacts in a tiny glass tube that complete a circuit when a magnet is near them. Or, in my case, I'd use the normally closed kind. Magnet on the flag arm, switch on the mailbox body. When the flag is down, the magnet is next to the switch and the circuit is open. When the mailman lifts the flag, the magnet moves away and the circuit closes. Bingo. The cannon. I couldn't use the spring-loaded party poppers. They were too weak and unreliable. This couldn't be a poof. It had to be a statement. I needed air pressure. I rummaged in my cycling gear and found my solution, a CO2 bike tire inflator. It used small, threaded 16-gram CO2 cartridges. Perfect. The payload. This was the most important part. Confetti, I'd said, but not just any confetti. It had to be extra. And this was the genius part, biodegradable. I am not a monster. I am an environmentalist with a confetti cannon. A quick search on Amazon Prime, God bless one-day shipping, which I'd ordered yesterday, had yielded my ammunition. 2 one-pound bags of biodegradable, water-soluble rice paper confetti, bright rainbow colors. If she hated aggressive red, I chortled to Buster, she's going to love fabulous unicorn rainbow. The assembly. This was the hard part. I had to hide it all. I took a waterproof plastic project box, the kind you use for outdoor electrical, and mounted it to the underside of the mailbox, right against the post where it wouldn't be seen from the street. Inside this box, I mounted the CO2 cartridge, a 12V battery pack, 8 AAs, plenty of juice, and the key component, a 12V electronic solenoid valve. The reed switch on the mailbox would trigger the battery, which would snap open the solenoid. The solenoid would release the compressed CO2 from the cartridge into a flexible vinyl tube. I drilled a small, discreet hole in the back of the mailbox. I ran the tube inside, securing it to the ceiling of the box with epoxy. I fashioned a launch bay out of a small piece of plastic, a little trough just behind the mailbox door. I carefully aimed the nozzle of the tube right at the trough. Finally, I packed the trough with a generous handful of rainbow rice paper confetti. The trigger, the reed switch and magnet, was tiny, and I hid it right inside the flag's hinge mechanism. From the outside, it was completely invisible. The whole setup was self-contained, waterproof, and from a casual inspection, looked like a perfectly normal, boring-as-dirt mailbox. By 10 p.m. that night, Sal's crew was long gone. The new fence post was very noisily set in concrete, and the neighborhood was silent. It was time for a test. I couldn't test it outside. Brenda would be on me like a hawk. I brought the whole contraption, mailbox, post, and all, back into the garage. I set up a video call with Alex. All right, let's see it. Alex's face appeared on my laptop, grinning. Project Party Popper, live demo. Okay, I said, my heart pounding a bit. I'm clamping this to the workbench. This is test dummy 1. Systems are hot. Payload is loaded. I am simulating the mailman. I am delivering a package of undue burden. Buster, sensing the excitement, was sitting at attention, tail thumping. And we have outgoing mail, I said. I flipped the chrome-painted, I'd kept it for testing, flag up. The solenoid clicked. Thwack! The sound was way louder than I expected. It was a sharp, percussive thump of compressed air. A massive cloud of rainbow confetti exploded from the mailbox, hitting the garage ceiling and raining down everywhere. It coated me. It coated the workbench. It coated my laptop. And it coated a very surprised-looking Buster, who now looked like he'd lost a fight with a pride parade float. Alex was cackling. I could barely hear him over the ringing in my ears. Holy, it's magnificent. You've created a gay pride IED. That's not a poof, that's a detonation. I was wiping confetti off my glasses, laughing. It's a little more powerful than I anticipated. Buster, realizing the colorful flecks were edible, started happily hoovering them off the floor. Buster, no, oh, wait, it's rice paper. It's edible. Okay, fine. Good boy. Dude, Alex said, wiping a tear from his eye. This is it. This is your masterpiece. Brenda is not going to know what hit her. Literally. I need to tune the pressure, I said, looking at the chaos. I need to muffle that thwack. I'm aiming for festive explosion, not shrapnel. But the concept is sound. I worked for another hour, wrapping the solenoid in sound-dampening foam. I adjusted the nozzle to create more of a whoomp than a crack. I perfected the confetti packing method for maximum spread and hang time. By 3 a.m., I had it. Not a bang, but a whoomp, a glorious burst, a parting gift for the mailman. I looked at my creation. It was beautiful. It was petty. It was perfect. Tomorrow, we install. At 8 a.m. sharp, Sal's truck rumbled down the street. It was glorious. All right, kid, Sal said, hopping out. He was carrying a post hole digger. We're, checking the property line today. And this post by the driveway looks suspicious. We're gonna have to re-dig it. Make sure it's on. Your side of the line? He winked. Sal, you're a miracle, I said. Brenda was already on her porch, coffee mug in hand, watching. Sal, she yelled, her voice cutting through the morning quiet. Your truck is parked 2 inches onto the sidewalk. I'm documenting this. Sal, bless his heart, cupped his hand to his ear. Sorry, ma'am, gotta check this footing. Can't hear ya. He and Juan fired up the digger, and the glorious, disruptive noise began. It was the perfect cover. You got 10 minutes, Sal yelled over the roar. That's all I needed. I unbolted my old test dummy mailbox. I brought out Project Party Popper, fully loaded and armed. I quickly bolted it to the 4x4 post. I double-checked the wiring on the project box hidden underneath. I made sure the launch slot, which I'd camouflaged with a thin layer of black paint, was invisible from the street. Then I attached the original little red flag. The aggressive one. It looked so innocent, so plain, so threatening. 9 minutes later, I was back in my garage, tools put away. Sal's crew was still making a magnificent racket, now tamping the dirt around the post they had just checked. The trap was set. It was armed and ready. Now, I just had to wait for the mailman. Dave, our mailman, usually came around 2 p.m. This was going to be the longest 6 hours of my life. I tried to work. I couldn't. I just stared at my monitor, my code looking like meaningless symbols. I went outside. I decided to do some yard work. This yard work consisted of me anxiously re-raking the same 5-foot patch of immaculate leaves for an hour. Brenda, across the street, was power washing her driveway. She was power washing it on a Tuesday morning. She'd already power washed it last week. She was, I'm convinced, trying to blast the concept of dirt off the planet. And the whole time, she kept staring at me, then at my mailbox, then back at me. She knew I did something. She'd heard me in the garage. She'd seen me swap the mailboxes under the cover of Sal's noise. She just didn't know what. At 11:03 a.m., a police cruiser pulled up, slowly. My blood went cold. "Oh, fantastic!" Brenda immediately shut off her power washer, a triumphant look on her face. She'd called them. She'd actually called the cops. What did she tell them? "He's waiting for his mail, menacingly. He's raking, suspiciously." 2 officers got out. The first was Officer Miller, older, mustache, and a face that screamed, "I am 2 years from retirement, and I have seen it all." The second was Officer Chen, younger, sharper, and looked like he was desperately trying not to smile. "Morning, sir," Officer Miller said, walking up my driveway. "You, Mark?" "That's me, officer," I said, leaning on my rake. "Everything okay?" Brenda, of course, was already marching across the street, her power wash wand still dripping. "Officers, thank you for coming. This man," she pointed her wand at me like a weapon, "has been behaving very erratically all morning. He's been tampering with his mailbox. I'm concerned he's building some kind of device." Officer Chen looked at my mailbox. He looked at me, in my cargo shorts and a t-shirt that said, "Nerd Power." He looked back at the mailbox. Device, ma'am?" Chen asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Sir, are you building a device? In your mailbox?" "A device?" I said, channeling every ounce of confused innocence I had. "No, officer. I was cleaning it. You know, cobwebs, spiders. Brenda here is our HOA president. She's very passionate about aesthetic harmony. She, had an issue with my flag." Officer Miller let out a sigh so deep it seemed to come from his very soul. He'd clearly heard from Brenda before. "Ma'am, is that what this is about? The mailbox flag?" "He's been in his garage," Brenda insisted, her voice rising. "There were sounds, and he has these contractors." She pointed at Sal's truck, which was now, conveniently, parked perfectly legally. "They were making a racket all morning. It was a diversion." Miller looked at Mark. "Sir, would you mind if I looked at your mailbox?" "Be my guest," I said, shrugging. "It's a mailbox. It holds mail. You want to open it? Go ahead." I walked over and pulled down the little door. Empty. See? No devices. Miller and Chen both leaned in. They looked inside the dark, completely empty black mailbox. The mechanism was hidden on the outside, underneath, and the inside on the ceiling in the back. From their angle, it was just a box. "Looks like a standard mailbox, ma'am," Officer Chen said, straightening up. "Sir, sorry to bother you," Miller said, already turning to go. "Ma'am, please don't call 911 unless there's an actual emergency. Aggressive flags don't count." "But it's unneighborly," Brenda sputtered, her face turning an impressive shade of fuchsia that was, I noted, far more aggressive than my flag. "Have a good day, folks," Miller said, getting back in the car. The cops left. Brenda stared at me, defeated but not broken. She knew I was up to something. I just smiled, gave her a friendly little 2-finger wave, and went back to raking my one, very well-raked patch of leaves. 2 hours to go. The tension was so thick you could cut it with an HOA-approved, non-aggressive, beige-colored plastic knife. At 1:00 p.m., Sal and his crew started packing up their tools for lunch. The glorious, grinding, jackhammering, auger-roaring noise that had been my shield for 2 days finally died. The silence that fell over Willow Creek was sudden and deafening. Brenda, who had been defeatedly spraying her, already immaculate, siding, saw her opening. The cover was gone. She shut off her hose, dropped it on the lawn, and marched back across the street. She looked like a general about to inspect a rogue barracks. "They're gone," she stated, planting herself on the sidewalk in front of my house. "Who's gone?" "Oh, Sal?" I said, pausing my yard work. "Yeah, lunchtime. Union rules, probably. Or just hunger. It's a biological imperative, Brenda, even for contractors." "I know what you did, Mark," she said, her voice a low, conspiratorial hiss. "You were fiddling with that box. The police may not see it, but I do. You're trying to antagonize me." "Brenda," I said, leaning on my rake again, "I'll be honest, I am trying to get my mail, and Sal is trying to build my fence. You seem to be the only one antagonized by commerce and postage." "We'll see," she said, her eyes narrowing. "We'll just see. I'm going to be right here when the mailman comes. And if that flag, or anything else, is non-compliant, I'm documenting it for the board, and for my attorney." My jaw almost dropped. You're going to wait for the mailman?" "I am going to observe," she corrected. This was better than I could have possibly imagined. She wasn't just going to hear about it. She wasn't just going to see the aftermath. She wanted a front-row seat. Who was I to deny her the full theatrical experience? Brenda marched back to her garage. I thought she was leaving. Oh no. She emerged a moment later carrying a collapsible nylon lawn chair. The kind you take to a kid's soccer game. She unfolded it, snapped it open with a flourish, and set it up on her own driveway, directly opposite my mailbox. She sat. She crossed her arms. And she stared. It was a stakeout. She was on a stakeout. For mail fraud. Or flag fraud. I didn't care. I was giddy. I felt a bubble of laughter rising in my chest that I had to choke down with a cough. I casually walked back to my front porch and sat down on the steps, pretending to read a book I'd grabbed from the hall table. It was a cookbook. I was pretending to be deeply engrossed in a recipe for autumnal squash bisque. At 1:45 p.m., Sal's F-250 rumbled back down the street. Sal, Juan, and Miguel got out, all of them holding giant deli wrap subs. They saw me on the porch. They saw Brenda in her lawn chair. They stopped. Sal looked at Brenda. He looked at me. He looked at the mailbox. He walked over to my porch, unwrapping his sub. "Holy," he whispered, taking a bite. She's really lost it, hasn't she? What is she doing?" "She's observing," I whispered back. "Waiting for the mail. She thinks I'm up to something." Juan, Sal's younger worker, heard this and let out a snort. "Waiting for the mail? Boss, is this about that thing you mentioned? The mailbox problem?" "It might be," I said. "Sal, you guys might want to, I don't know, stick around. You've got to check the level on that post one more time, right? Make sure the concrete is curing properly." A slow, beautiful smile spread across Sal's face. He looked at Brenda, who was glaring at us, her observation momentarily distracted by our conspiracy. "Juan! Miguel!" Sal called out, not bothering to whisper. "Break's over. We gotta check all the posts. And you know what? We should probably stand right here to supervise the curing of the concrete. The three of them abandoned their fence-building pretense. They leaned against the side of their truck, which was parked right behind my mailbox, subs in hand. It was the most beautiful suburban standoff I had ever witnessed. There was me on my porch, pretending to read about bisque. There was Brenda in her lawn chair, pretending to be a guardian of justice. And there were three contractors, providing a sarcastic, sandwich-eating Greek chorus, all of them just watching the mailbox. All of us, just waiting for the mail truck. The silence stretched. 1:50 p.m., 1:55 p.m., and then I heard it. The faint, familiar rumble of the Grumman LLV. The stop-and-go whine of the engine as it came down the cross street. He was on our street. My heart started pounding against my ribs. I pretended to turn a page. Showtime. The white mail truck turned onto our block. 2:03 p.m. Right on time. Dave the mailman was a neighborhood legend. He was a guy who wore shorts in the middle of February, always had a pocketful of treats for the neighborhood dogs, and possessed an aura of zen-like indifference to the petty dramas of Willow Creek. He'd been on this route for 20 years. He'd seen it all. He was currently blasting "Carry On Wayward Son" from his truck's tinny speakers. It was, I thought, an incredibly appropriate soundtrack. Dave pulled up to my house. He left the engine running, hopped out, and grabbed my mail from his bin. It looked like a bill and a Pottery Barn catalog. "This is it," I breathed. My palms were sweating. I glanced across the street. Brenda was leaning forward in her chair. Her phone was out. She was up, filming. This was perfect. Sal and his crew had stopped eating. Juan had his own phone out, also filming, but he was filming Brenda. Miguel was just grinning, breadcrumbs in his beard. Dave, blissfully unaware he was the main event in a suburban Cold War, sauntered up the driveway. He nodded to me on the porch. "Mark?" "Dave," I called back, my voice a little higher than I'd intended. "How's the route?" Same old," he said, and then he spotted Brenda, phone held aloft like a holy icon. "Afternoon, Brenda. Making a movie?" "I am documenting a potential bylaw infraction, David," she announced, her voice prim and official. Dave just shrugged. Like I said, he'd seen it all. "Okay. Don't get my bad side." He turned to the mailbox. This was the moment. My heart was a drum solo. My bisque recipe was completely forgotten. Dave pulled open the little door. He shoved the Pottery Barn catalog and the bill inside. My blood ran cold. Oh my God. I don't have outgoing mail. The entire system was predicated on the flag being raised. Dave never raised the flag unless there was outgoing mail. He'd just put the mail in and leave. My entire, beautiful, petty, over-engineered plan was about to fail because I hadn't thought to put a dummy letter in the box. I was an idiot, a glorious, confetti-covered idiot. But then, Dave paused. He squinted into the mailbox. He reached back inside, and he pulled out an envelope. I'd done it. I had put something in there. I'd completely forgotten. This morning, in my pre-dawn flurry of installation, I'd grabbed a get-well-soon card I was supposed to send to my Aunt Martha. I'd stuck it in the box as a final, live test. I was a genius. I was a spiteful, forgetful genius. Dave looked at the envelope, tucked it into his satchel, and then closed the mailbox door. And as per 20 years of training and United States Postal Service procedure, he reached down, grabbed the little red, aggressive flag, and lifted it. The reed switch magnet moved away from the sensor. The circuit closed. The 12-volt battery pack energized the solenoid. The solenoid clicked. I couldn't hear it, but I felt it. For 1/2 of a second, the world held its breath. Kansas was still singing about wayward sons. Brenda was still filming. Sal was still chewing. Then, oomp! It wasn't a bang. It was a fwoomp. A deep, satisfying, percussive cough. A massive, glorious, catastrophic explosion of rainbow rice paper confetti erupted from the top of the mailbox. It wasn't a poof, it was a burst. It was a 4th of July finale. It was a unicorn sneezing glitter. A column of red, green, blue, yellow, and purple shot 3 feet straight into the air, hung there for a magical, shimmering second in the 2 p.m. sunlight. And then it drifted. Gently, peacefully. It covered everything. It covered the mailbox post, which now looked like it was wearing a festive sweater. It covered my, now Sal approved, azalea bushes. It covered Dave the mailman. Dave was frozen in place, the Pottery Barn catalog he'd been holding for Mrs. Henderson now in his other hand. He was dusted, head to toe, in rainbow confetti. His hat, his blue uniform, his mail satchel. He looked like a postal worker-shaped pinata. And most importantly, a gentle, traitorous, beautiful little breeze kicked up at that exact moment. It carried a significant portion of the festive cloud directly across the street. It drifted down, like a colorful, celebratory snow, all over Brenda. It covered her. It covered her white Lexus. It covered her stupid lawn chair. A big, bright purple piece landed directly on the lens of her phone, which she was still holding up. The music from Dave's truck cut out as the song ended. There was a moment of profound, stunned, beautiful silence. The only sound was the patter, patter, patter of the last few bits of confetti landing on the asphalt. The reaction was a perfect 3-act play. Act 1, Dave. Dave the mailman blinked, slowly. He looked at the confetti on his arms. He looked at the mailbox. He looked at the cloud. He looked at me. He plucked a piece of yellow confetti off his nose. "Huh," he said. "That's new." Act 2. The contractors, Sal and his crew. There was a half-second of disbelief. Then Sal let out a roar of laughter. He doubled over, slapping his knee. Juan was filming, but his phone was shaking so hard from his laughter it was probably unusable. Miguel just dropped his sub, his hands on his head, howling. Act 3. Brenda. She was frozen. Utterly, completely frozen. Her mouth was open, her phone was still pointed at the mailbox. A little pile of rainbow joy was accumulating in her visor. She was, for the first time since I'd met her, speechless. Then she processed. She looked at her confetti-covered arms. She looked at her confetti-dusted Lexus. She wiped the purple fleck off her phone. And she let out a shriek. It wasn't a yell. It was a shriek. A high-pitched, banshee wail that scared birds a block away. "Assault!" she screamed, leaping out of her chair. "He assaulted me! You're all witnesses! He exploded his mailbox!" I had to move. This was my moment. I hopped off the porch, hands in my pockets, and walked over, affecting my most "Aw, shucks, what's all this then?" expression. "Whoa, what happened?" I said, looking around at the beautiful chaos. Dave, you okay? Brenda? You've got a little something on your visor. Dave was brushing confetti off his hat, a small, confused smile playing on his lips. Mark, what the hell was that? I don't know, I said, looking at the mailbox with wide-eyed shock. It must be that new mail notification system I ordered from Notify Box. It's a startup from Estonia. It's supposed to be a gentle chime. This seems defective. Way too much chime. Brenda, sputtering, was picking confetti out of her perfectly coiffed hair. Defective? You built that. I saw you. I'm calling the police. This is terrorism. Neighborhood terrorism. She was already dialing 911. Again. Dave the mailman was trying and failing not to laugh. Sal was offering him a beer for his troubles. And I was just enjoying the visual pollution. It was, I had to admit, a lot more festive than aggressive red. It really did tie the neighborhood together. The street was a beautiful disaster. It looked like a ticker-tape parade for one very confused mailman. Brenda was pacing her driveway, which was now a Jackson Pollock of rainbow flecks, still on the phone with the 911 dispatcher. Yes, an explosion, she shrieked into the phone, gesturing wildly. A glitter bomb. I am a victim. He's a menace. Send everyone. Send the bomb squad. My jaw dropped. The bomb squad, I muttered to Sal. For rice paper. She's committed, Sal said, nodding with grudging respect. I'll give her that. Dave the mailman, having brushed off 90% of the evidence, just shook his head. He gave me a long, thoughtful look. Notify Box, huh? He said, a grin finally breaking through his professional veneer. It's a startup, I said, trying to keep a straight face. From Estonia. I think they're still working out the kinks. Right, Dave said. He slapped me on the shoulder, which left a faint, glittery handprint. Well, you have a great day, Mark. And, thanks for the party. He got back in his truck, and as he pulled away, I could see his shoulders shaking with laughter. Carry On Wayward Son was replaced by Another One Bites the Dust. I'm not even kidding. Perfect. A few minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up. Lights on, but no sirens this time. They pulled up fast. I guess bomb is the magic word. Officer Miller and Officer Chen got out of the lead car. Miller's face was a mask of pure, unfiltered exhaustion. He looked at the rainbow-dusted street. He looked at Brenda, who was vibrating with righteous fury. He looked at me, standing next to my mailbox. He looked at Sal and his crew, who were all suddenly very interested in tamping the dirt again. "Ma'am," Miller said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You called 911 for confetti?" "Officer!" Brenda marched over, her phone held out. "It was an explosion. I was hit. It's in my hair. It's in my mouth. It's assault. Look!" She gestured wildly at the scene, which admittedly looked like a My Little Pony had spontaneously combusted. Officer Chen walked over to my azalea bush and plucked off a piece of green confetti. He rubbed it between his fingers. He sniffed it. "Smells like rice," he said, turning to Miller. "Ma'am, this is biodegradable confetti." "He launched it at me," Brenda insisted. "It was a projectile. A confetti projectile. I want him arrested. He booby-trapped his mailbox." Officer Miller sighed, the sigh of a man who has seen too much of the suburbs. He pinched the bridge of his nose, right under his sunglasses. He took a long, slow breath. "Mark," he said, finally turning to me. What happened here?" I deployed my alibi. Officer, I am just as confused as you are. And frankly, a little embarrassed. As I told Officer Chen this morning, our HOA president, I gestured politely at Brenda, was very concerned about my old flag, said it was aggressive. She asked me to find an alternative signaling method. Chen's lips twitched. Miller's mustache didn't move. So, I continued, I went online. I found this new mail arrival notification system. It's called the Notify Box. It's from Estonia. It's supposed to alert you with a gentle, festive chime when the mail is delivered. A Notify Box, Miller repeated, his voice deadpan. Yes, sir, you can see the module. I pointed to the project box under the mailbox, which had a very official-looking Notify Box label I'd printed out. I think I got a faulty unit. The celebration setting seems to be, calibrated a little high. I am so embarrassed. This is not gentle. I'll be calling customer service immediately, officer. Miller stared at me. He stared at the Notify Box label. He looked at Brenda, who was now covered in what looked like colorful dandruff. He looked at Sal's crew, who were all giving him thumbs-ups behind Brenda's back. A faulty unit? Miller said. Absolutely, I said, nodding gravely. I'll be asking for a full refund. This is way too distracting. Officer Chen coughed, a sound that was suspiciously like a choked-back laugh. Miller finally spoke. Brenda. Ma'am. He walked over to her. It is not a crime to have a faulty confetti-launching mailbox. It's not assault. It's not battery. It's not terrorism. It's weird, and it's messy, but it is not a police matter. But my property, she sputtered. My person. I've been glittered. It's rice paper, ma'am, Chen said helpfully. It'll dissolve with the morning dew. Or a hose. Officer, Miller said, turning to me. He was clearly done. I am going to officially ask you to disable your Notify Box. It's distracting. And it's probably a public nuisance. Turn it off. Done. Absolutely, officer, I said with deep sincerity. I'm just as appalled as you are. Safety first. I walked over to the mailbox, opened the project box, and pretended to fiddle with a wire. I just disconnected the battery pack. All safe. I'll just go back to my old aggressive red flag. Good idea, Officer Chen said, turning away to hide his face. But you can't, he wins, Brenda wailed. Ma'am, there's no winning here, Miller said, his patience snapping. This is a neighborhood. Go home. Sir, go home. Everyone, just go home. The officers got back in their car. As they pulled away, I saw the car shake. Officer Chen, in the passenger seat, had just lost it. He was doubled over, laughing. Miller was just staring straight ahead, driving away from the most ridiculous call of his career. Sal and his crew packed up their tools. The observation was over. Kid, Sal said, walking over. He clapped me on the shoulder, sending up another small poof of confetti. That was the single greatest thing I have ever seen in 30 years of construction. The fence is done, and you know what? No charge for the post-supervision today. Thanks, old Sal. Really, for everything. Anytime, he grinned. You ever need any more construction, you let me know. The contractors drove away, honking their horn. It was just me and Brenda. She was standing on her driveway, a lone confetti-dusted statue of rage and defeat. The rainbow flecks on her white Lexus shimmered. She didn't say a word. She just pointed one trembling, glittery finger at me. Then she turned, marched inside, and slammed her door. I looked at my mailbox. I looked at the beautiful, rainbow-colored disaster all over my lawn. I had to admit, it really did tie the neighborhood together. The adrenaline faded, leaving me with a glorious, giddy sense of victory and a very, very colorful lawn. I went to the garage and got the leaf blower. I worked for about 20 minutes, blowing the vast majority of the festive fallout into a large, cheerful-looking pile on my driveway. Then I got the hose. As advertised, the moment the water hit the rice paper, it all just dissolved. It melted away into a wet, pulpy, non-aggressive mess. Cleanup was a breeze, environmentally friendly, just as I'd planned. By 5 p.m., you'd hardly know a festive IED had gone off on my property. Except for Brenda's house. I hadn't hosed her driveway, or her Lexus, or her lawn chair, which she had abandoned in her hasty, glittered retreat. A few stubborn, bright red and blue specks of rainbow still clung to her perfect beige facade. A reminder. A little pop of color. I went back to the mailbox. I reconnected the simple, original flag mechanism. No more read switches, no more CO2, no more notify box. I attached the little red flag. It looked smug. It looked redder than ever. More aggressive, more distracting. It was beautiful. It was a trophy. I went inside, poured myself a very large, very celebratory whiskey, and sat down at my computer. My phone was blowing up. Juan, Sal's worker, had apparently posted his video. Not the video of the explosion, but the video of Brenda's reaction. The shriek, the assault accusation, the glittered complaint to Officer Miller. He'd posted it in the unofficial neighborhood Facebook group, the one Brenda didn't know about, the one titled Willow Creek Survivors. It was a sensation. Alex, text. Dude, I saw the video. I'm crying. I'm literally in tears. It's from Estonia. Pure gold. You are a legend. Alex, text. I've been glittered. I'm putting that on a t-shirt. Neighbor, Bob, on Facebook. Is it true what happened at Mark's place? Did his mailbox throw a party? Neighbor, Sarah, on Facebook. I saw it. I was walking my dog. Dave the mailman looked like a unicorn. Brenda got dusted. My kids are asking if the mailman is magic now. Sal, on Facebook, commenting on Juan's video. Just another day in Willow Creek. Checking for aggressive mail. Gotta watch out for those festive violations. I was a local hero. I was the mailbox bomber of Willow Creek. The man who fought the HOA with glitter and won. The digital pitchforks were out for Brenda. Her entire community harmony platform was looking a little tarnished. It's hard to rule with an iron fist when everyone has seen a video of you complaining to the police about being glittered. I was scrolling through the comments, savoring my victory, when an email dinged. The subject line made my blood run cold for a second. From Willow Creek HOA Board, subject, Mailbox Compliance, 1/24, Willow Creek Doctor. I opened it. Dear Mark, after further review of the CCNRs, and in the interest of community harmony and avoiding distractions, the board, Brenda, has decided that standard USPS-approved red mailbox flags are provisionally acceptable under Article 4. No further action is required at this time. We appreciate your cooperation in this matter. Sincerely, Brenda President, Willow Creek HOA. I read it twice. Provisionally acceptable. I'd won. She'd put it in writing. That was Brenda speak for, I surrender, you glitter-wielding, malicious compliance-deploying maniac. The war was over. I had defeated the Beige Inquisition. My aggressive red flag was free to fly, distracting and unneighborly, for all time. I took a long, slow sip of my whiskey. It was the best whiskey I'd ever had. The next morning, I went to get my mail. The little red flag was up. Dave had come. I smiled, walked down the driveway, and opened the little door. Inside, on top of my electric bill, was a single piece of confetti. I paused. I hadn't cleaned inside the box. It must have been a leftover, a straggler from the explosion. But no, the confetti from yesterday was rainbow-colored. Rice paper. This was a single, perfect, heart-shaped piece of confetti. It was bright red. I looked across the street. Brenda was outside, watering her plants. She looked at me. She wasn't glaring. She wasn't scowling. She smiled. It was a tiny, terrifying smile, just a little upturn at the corners of her mouth. Oh, God. The war wasn't over. We'd just entered the Cold War phase, and she had just returned fire.